Rick and Morty are all messed up, but somehow some are fan favorites while others are hated for being hypocritical or just plain awful. A ranking of the most loved and most hated characters in Rick and Morty, starting with Evil Morty. If you ask a Rick and Morty fan to name their favorite character, you'll get a lot of typical answers. Rick because he's a genius who doesn't care, Jerry because he's the ultimate sad clown, and of course Mr. Poopy Butthole because, well, come on now, it's Mr. Poopy Butthole. But ask the real die-hard fans, the ones who pay way too much attention to the details, and you'll hear a name that sends chills down the spine of even the most seasoned Rick enthusiast. Evil Morty. A Morty without limits. A Morty without a leash. A Morty who doesn't just question Rick's authority, he destroys it. Evil Morty isn't just another Morty. He's the Morty who broke the system, and that's exactly why fans love him.
You're an asshole. Well, yeah, I'm not good, Morty. Come or don't, I don't care. Oh!
He started as a genius twist that nobody saw coming. When Evil Morty first appeared in close Rick counters of the Rick kind, fans had no idea what was coming.
Hey man, you seem to know how this place works. Is there any way we could shut down that grid and rescue all those Mortys outside? It would be pointless. Mortys have no chance of defeating a Rick.
The episode introduced the Citadel of Ricks, a bureaucratic nightmare where thousands of Ricks and Mortys coexisted in a massive interdimensional mess. The main villain? A seemingly evil Rick, going around assassinating the other Ricks and leaving behind a trail of dead Mortys.
So you want me to team up with you to take down the Council of Ricks, right? Is that where you're going with this? Because that's where I'd be going. Please. I think I'm doing pretty good on my own. I'm simply gonna download the contents of your brain and then kill you.
But then, plot twist, the evil Rick was just a puppet, controlled by a Morty all along. That moment changed everything. It wasn't just a shocking twist, it was a wake-up call. For the first time, Rick and Morty fans realized, wait, Mortys can be just as dangerous as Ricks? Just like that, Evil Morty went from being a one-off villain to a legend in the making.
You sellout Mortys kill me. I'd hate you more than the Ricks you worship if there was any point, but you can't help it. You were bred for it.
He's everything a Morty shouldn't be. The reason Evil Morty stands out is simple. He doesn't play by the rules. Regular Mortys, they suffer. They're pawns in Rick's game, designed to be dumb, weak, and disposable. The Citadel of Ricks literally mass-produces Mortys like cattle. But Evil Morty, he doesn't need a Rick, doesn't follow orders, and he sure as hell isn't afraid to burn everything down. By the time we see him again in the Ricklantis mix-up, he's running for president of the Citadel. Guess what? He wins. How? Because he's smarter than every single Rick and Morty in the multiverse. While other Mortys accept their fate, Evil Morty sees the system for what it is, a prison built to keep Mortys in line.
Raise your hand if he speaks for you.
Once he's in power, he slaughters the Ricks who controlled him and takes over completely. At that moment, fans weren't just shocked, they were cheering. Evil Morty wasn't just a villain, he was a revolution. He's the only character who truly escapes Rick. No character in Rick and Morty has ever truly escaped Rick's influence. Morty keeps coming back, Summer idolizes Rick, Beth craves his approval. Even Birdperson, a literal warrior with a dark past, ends up back in Rick's orbit. But Evil Morty, he leaves. In Rick and Morty Jack, he destroys the Citadel, wipes out the Ricks, and literally breaks through the central finite curve, the barrier that kept all Ricks at the top of the food chain.
He separated all the infinite universes from all the infinite universes where he's the smartest man in the universe. And I'm leaving it. That's what makes me evil, being sick of him.
And in the final shot of the episode, we see him walking into an entirely new multiverse. One where Ricks aren't the smartest beings in existence. That's the biggest power move in the entire series. While every other Morty fights for Rick's approval, Evil Morty fights for freedom. And he wins. That's why fans love him. He's not just a villain, he's proof that Rick isn't as untouchable as he thinks.
You little narcissist.
Dude, literal glass house.
You think you're better than me?
Jesus, I hope so.
In a universe where Rick always comes out on top, Evil Morty is the one exception. He's not a sidekick, he's not a victim, he's definitely not a joke. He's the Morty who flipped the script, and that's exactly why we love him. unlike Beth, who couldn't care less about what happens to Morty. Beth Smith is one of the most polarizing characters in Rick and Morty. While some fans appreciate her depth and complexity, others see her as a narcissistic, emotionally detached, and downright unpleasant person.
We're losing him.
Hey, Tom, we know when we're losing him. We can hear the beats!
She's like that one co-worker who thinks they're smarter than everyone else but contributes absolutely nothing to the team. She's a self-absorbed narcissist. Beth spends more time worshipping Rick than parenting her own kids. She idolizes her father despite him being a drunken, egotistical, universe-wrecking sociopath, and sees herself as superior to her husband Jerry and pretty much everyone else.
Maybe you're right.
Yeah, maybe I am. I'm my father's daughter. I'm smart. Why do you think I'm a heart surgeon?
Horse heart surgeon.
Hello?
The ABCs of Beth episode reveals that Beth was basically a serial killer in training as a kid, casually requesting murderous gadgets from Rick like she was ordering off a McDonald's menu.
Look at some of the shit you were asking me to make you as a kid. Ray guns, a whip that forces people to like you, invisibility cuffs, a parent trap, a lightning gun, a teddy bear with anatomically correct innards.
The Happy Meal toys have clearly gotten strange over the years. Even when confronted with her past, she refuses to acknowledge how messed up she is, doubling down on the idea that she's not like Rick, even though she clearly is.
Oh my god, this is your fault. I am not a bad person.
Beth thinks she's better than Jerry, but let's be honest, that's not exactly an accomplishment.
Have fun, you two.
Yes, we will have as much fun as possible on our Titanic-themed getaway.
Let's lose the dude, please. It's supposed to be romantic.
She's a terrible mother. If there was a parenting hall of fame, Beth would be in the do not admit section. She constantly neglects Morty and Summer, treating them like annoying background characters in the Rick and Beth show. And in the episode Children of Mort, Rick impregnates a planet. Don't ask.
Are you kidding me? Look at them. They look just like you.
Yeah, and snakes look like dildos, Beth. What's your point?
They do?
And instead of being horrified, Beth immediately forgets about her actual children and throws herself into fixing her marriage with Rick. Priorities, Beth. She wants Rick's approval so badly that she'd rather be his drinking buddy than a responsible parent.
These kids may not be mine, but you definitely are. Look at you, my little steampunk overlord.
She blames everyone else for her problems. Beth has a victim complex the size of the multiverse. Instead of taking responsibility, she constantly shifts the blame to Jerry, Rick, or anyone else who happens to be nearby.
I was traumatized, Summer. Okay, your generation wouldn't get that.
In the Rick Shank redemption, when Rick manipulates Jerry into getting fired, Beth sides with Rick, then acts like it's somehow Jerry's fault their marriage is falling apart.
Beth, it's him or me.
Or in the Old Man in the Sea episode, Beth gaslights Jerry into believing she respects him, but behind his back she still treats him like a complete joke.
Jerry, I didn't use it. Did you?
Me? No. God, of course not.
Well, then we're all good, dog.
She's basically Rick-like, but without the charm. Beth wants to be just like Rick, but the problem is, she's not smart or funny enough, bluntly, to pull it off. Like how Rick actively avoids Beth in Rick-ternal Friendshine of the Spotless Mort.
Are you sure you don't want to come with us?
No, get out of here. I've got a million things I've been putting off.
Which says a lot considering he tolerates Morty and Summer more than he does her. And look how Beth acts after having an affair with Space Beth in Bethic Twinstinct.
I want you back in my guts like I'm one of your sick little fillies.
Because apparently her ego is so massive, the only person she finds worthy of being with is herself. Beth is everything bad about Rick without the intelligence or charisma that makes him at least somewhat entertaining. Beth enables Rick's toxicity. Just look what she does in the ABCs of Beth. Instead of confronting the damage Rick has done, she embraces it, proving that she's more like him than she'd ever admit.
I feel like I've spent my life pretending you're a great guy and trying to be like you. And the ugly truth has always been
That I'm not that great a guy and you're exactly like me.
Beth is a narcissist, a terrible mother, and an enabler of Rick's worst behaviors. She's so obsessed with proving she's better than everyone else that she forgets to actually be a decent person. Slightly ironic, that. If Rick and Morty had a most annoying character award, Beth would have it engraved in gold. Unlike Beth, Unity is loved by Rick and Morty fans. Unity stands out as one of the few characters who actually makes sense. A hyper-intelligent hive mind, Unity is one of the only characters who can keep up with Rick, challenge him, and, most shockingly, actually care about him.
Calm down! We came because we're worried about you!
Unity is one of the few characters who can match Rick. Rick Sanchez is the smartest man in the universe, which means most people he interacts with are either too dumb to challenge him or too weak to stand up to him. Not Unity. In autoerotic assimilation, Unity isn't just as smart as Rick, she's probably smarter.
One by one, I will unify them, I will become the universe, and I will be what the single-minded once called a god.
She controls entire civilizations effortlessly, while Rick can barely handle his own family. Unlike Rick, who acts like he doesn't care, Unity literally shapes the world to fit everyone's needs.
And I want the entire field of your largest stadium covered end to end with naked redheads, and I want the stands packed with every man that remotely resembles my father.
For once, Rick isn't the most powerful being in the room, and that's refreshing. Unity actually understands Rick. Let's be real, most people in Rick's life barely tolerate the guy. Beth wants his approval, Morty fears him, Summer just rolls with the chaos, and Jerry, well, Jerry exists. But Unity, she gets him. Unity is one of the only people who truly understands Rick's loneliness and why he acts the way he does. She sees his genius and his flaws, and she still loves him. If Rick were capable of a healthy relationship, Unity would be his perfect match. Unity shows us a softer side of Rick. For all of Rick's sarcasm, drinking, and general self-destruction, there's one thing he never does: show vulnerability. Except with Unity.
Unity! 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 I know you can hear me! Get out here!
When Unity leaves, Rick completely breaks down. He doesn't just shrug it off, he gets drunk, sits in silence, and nearly kills himself. It's one of the saddest moments in the show, proving that Unity meant more to him than he was willing to admit. She's not just another alien hookup, she's someone Rick actually loved. She's one of the show's best tragic characters. For all her power, Unity has one major flaw. She can't be around Rick without losing control.
But I know how it goes with us. I lose who I am and become part of you. Because in a strange way, you're better at what I do without even trying.
It's one of the saddest breakups in the show. Not because they didn't love each other, because they did. Too much. Unity wasn't toxic. Rick was. And for once, someone walked away from him first. If there's one relationship in the show that could have actually worked, it was this one. But of course, Rick being Rick, he ruined it. Although not in a way King Jellybean tried to ruin Morty. In a show filled with evil geniuses, corrupt politicians, and interdimensional warlords, you'd think King Jellybean wouldn't even be a blip on the radar. He's just a weird, lumpy old fairy tale ruler in an episode full of fantasy tropes, right? Wrong. King Jellybean isn't just disliked, he's one of the most genuinely disturbing and despised characters in Rick and Morty history, period. And for good reason. He's absolutely disgusting. Most villains in Rick and Morty are funny, over the top, or at least interesting, except Tammy, of course. King Jellybean, he's just revolting.
How are you today? I'm Mr. Jellybean.
From the moment we meet him, he's greasy, unsettling, and just looks wrong. He has that weird, fake, friendly personality that instantly puts you on edge. And just when you think he's his quirky side character, things get way, way worse. He tried to molest Morty. This is where King Jellybean often goes from creepy to being absolute nightmare fuel. Talk about Diddy vibes. The scene is dark, horrifying, and completely unexpected. Morty, a literal child, has to fight for his life against this disgusting monster. This wasn't played for laughs, like most Rick and Morty moments. This was pure horror. It was the moment fans went from disliking King Jellybean to straight up despising him. And then, of course, he acts like nothing happened. After the bathroom scene, you'd think King Jellybean would show some remorse, some guilt, hell, anything to indicate he's even slightly human. Nope. Right after the attack, King Jellybean walks right back into the main hall, acting like nothing happened. He smiles, waves, and continues playing the role of the beloved ruler. That's what makes him even more detestable. He's not just evil, he's good at hiding it. King Jellybean isn't a fun villain, a clever antagonist, or an interesting character. He's just a disgusting, predatory, power-hungry creep who got what he deserved. And in a show where some villains get redemption arcs, King Jellybean, he deserved nothing but a bullet. Unlike Birdperson, he definitely did not deserve a bullet. Birdperson stands out as one of the most grounded, loyal, and unexpectedly deep characters in Rick and Morty. While many characters in the show are either completely insane or total screw-ups, Birdperson is one of the few who actually feels like a real person, despite being a giant humanoid bird. He's stoic, wise, and most importantly, one of Rick's only true friends.
You matter to me.
The relationship that we have...
I never used that word.
...is not worth my integrity.
Oh my God! It's not a complicated transaction, my man.
He's one of the few characters Rick actually respects. Rick hates almost everyone, or at least doesn't really care about them, but Birdperson, he's different. Unlike most people who annoy Rick, fear him, or try to kill him, Birdperson is one of the very few characters who can talk to Rick like an equal. Instead of worshipping Rick's intelligence or being intimidated by him, Birdperson treats him like a friend, not a god.
But I find fatherhood exhausting and would like to show my daughter what real selfishness looks like.
He's hilariously deadpan and unintentionally funny. Birdperson's monotone, emotionless voice, and dry delivery make him one of the funniest characters in the show, without even trying.
I'm not looking to get into a soul bond. I'm just looking for...
I believe Birdperson can arrange that.
His deadpan humor is the perfect contrast to the over-the-top insanity of other characters. He's an absolute badass. Birdperson might sound like a depressed poet, but when it's time to fight, he's an unstoppable force. He fought side by side with Rick in the Battle of Blood Ridge, where they took down hordes of Galactical Federation forces. If that doesn't count as badass, I really don't know what does. His tragic story makes him one of the most sympathetic characters. Birdperson's entire arc is tragic, and fans love a good tragic character. Just when he finally finds happiness with Tammy, she betrays him and kills him in cold blood. It's one of the most shocking moments in the show, and it left us devastated. Against all odds, Rick saved Birdperson after his death and rebuilt him as a cyborg. Birdperson's mind was trapped, forcing Rick to enter his subconscious and convince him to keep living.
Buddy, this is not a safe way to work on yourself. At this point, I'd support you joining Scientology. I'll take the workshops with you. I'll get in a sauna with Travolta. I don't even care what happens. Let's get out of here.
We find out that Birdperson has a daughter he never knew about, adding even more layers to his character. Fans love complex, tragic characters, and Birdperson might be the most emotionally deep character in the show.
Yes, you're a bird and a person. I'm a bird and a person and more.
Birdperson is one of the few truly loyal characters in Rick and Morty. Loyalty is rare in this show. Everyone has either betraying someone, abandoning their friends, or being completely selfish. But not Birdperson. Despite everything Rick has done, Birdperson still calls him a friend. He doesn't sugarcoat things or make excuses for Rick's bad behavior, but he also never turns his back on him. Birdperson is a rare gem, and that's why we absolutely love him. Unlike Mr. Nimbus, love is the last thing you want to send his way. Introduced in Season 5, Episode 1, Mort Dinner Rick Andre, Nimbus is supposed to be Rick's arch-nemesis, but instead of being an actual threat, he's just a glorified fishman with an ego problem.
Okay, but what was his name again?
I am Mr. Nimbus! He's gonna say that a lot.
The thing is, he's more annoying than threatening. When we first meet Mr. Nimbus, we're told he's Rick's greatest nemesis, a statement that immediately raises eyebrows. Rick has fought evil versions of himself, galactic dictators, omnipotent beings, and even, existential dread. Yet somehow, his greatest enemy is a half-naked, flamboyant Aquaman ripoff who dances like a rejected Vegas performer. It's clear he's just a self-obsessed drama queen whose biggest power is
freeze! Fight. Fuck.
Controlling the police. He spends most of the episode flirting with Beth and Jerry while acting like he's the most important being in the universe. At no point does he feel like a threat to Rick, just an embarrassing inconvenience. Nimbus is what happens when you mix an aging rock star, a failed magician, and a bad LSD trip.
Did you think I would let you die alone, Richard?
He's weirdly sexual and not in a fun or kinky way. Look, Rick and Morty is always played with weird, uncomfortable humor, But Mr. Nimbus takes it to another level. Nimbus constantly sexualizes himself from the way he talks, walks, and thrusts his hips every 5 seconds.
Your fortress is a salty waste of coral and clam. Relinquish it at once.
Nobody asked for horny king of the ocean, yet here we are. He feels like a joke that went on way too long. Mr. Nimbus could have worked as a one-off joke, a ridiculous character meant to make us laugh for 5 minutes before Rick vaporizes him. But instead, he dominates the entire episode. The joke stops being funny after the first couple of minutes, yet we're stuck watching Nimbus scream about wine, do pelvic thrusts, and remind everyone he controls the police for the entire runtime. It's like the writers came up with one gag and stretched it over 20 minutes. The truth is, Mr. Nimbus is a joke stretched too thin, a villain without any real menace, and a character that leans so hard into his own absurdity that it stops being funny. He's not a true rival to Rick. He's a loud, over-sexualized, fish-themed weirdo who feels more like an SNL sketch gone wrong than an actual character. Could he have worked as a quick throwaway gag? Absolutely. But as the main focus of an episode? Not a chance. However, Scunchy definitely could be the main focus of an episode of Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty fans have always gravitated towards characters who can match Rick's energy, keep up with the insanity, and still be fun as hell. Enter Scunchy, the foul-mouthed, party-loving, borderline deranged, cat-like alien who somehow became one of the most beloved side characters in the series.
Rick, you son of a squanch!
Squanch! Told you he wasn't dead.
Scunchy is Rick's ultimate party buddy. Rick doesn't do friendships, not in the normal sense anyway. But Scunchy, he's the closest thing Rick has to an actual fun-loving best friend. When Rick throws a massive reality-warping house party, guess who shows up ready to absolutely destroy the place? Scunchy.
All right! I like your squanch!
Rick, what exactly is squanching?
Unlike Birdperson, who's moody and philosophical, Scunchy is all about debauchery, drinking, partying, and getting as squanched as possible. If Rick were ever to have a proper wingman, it would be Scunchy. While most characters are too weak, too annoying, or too sober for Rick to tolerate, Scunchy is just crazy enough to keep up with him. He's way tougher than he looks. At first glance, Scunchy seems like nothing more than a party animal, but when it's time to throw down, he's an absolute beast. When the Galactic Federation crashes Birdperson's wedding, Scunchy flips the switch from party mode to full-blown war mode.
Get your family out of here! I got this!
It's one of the most unexpectedly badass moments in the entire series. The fact that this laid-back, slightly perverted furball is also a trained fighter makes him one of the coolest supporting characters in the show. He's one of Rick's oldest and most loyal friends. Rick has very few real friends, and the ones he does have usually betray him or end up dead. But Scunchy, he's been with Rick for years and has never turned his back on him. When everything goes to hell, Scunchy doesn't run. He fights to the bitter end to protect his friends. While Jerry is busy surrendering like an idiot, Scunchy is out here dying, maybe, like a hero. Fans love that kind of loyalty.
Everyone mud up and hide! What's that smell? Oh, Squanchy, that's not mud!
I'm not from this planet!
Scunchy is one of the few characters that fans want to see more of. Unlike other recurring characters, Scunchy never overstayed his welcome. He was funny without being annoying. He was crazy without being useless. He was chaotic, but still likable. And most importantly, he disappeared before he could be ruined by overuse. Fans have been begging for Scunchy to return, and the fact that his fate was left ambiguous gives them hope that we might see him again. He's a fan favorite because he's the right amount of insane. But you know who is not fan favorite? It is Tammy. In a show filled with murderous aliens, dimension-hopping sociopaths, and an actual sentient fart, you'd think it would be hard to stand out as one of the most hated characters. But Tammy Gooderman somehow pulled it off. What started as a seemingly harmless background character turned into one of the show's biggest betrayals, and fans have never really forgiven her for it.
I promise to be yours until your death.
Nice. The ultimate fake friend. Tammy spent an entire season pretending to be Summer's best friend, but in reality, she was an undercover agent for the Galactic Federation. All is revealed in the Wedding Squanchers episode. She pretends to be a ditzy, carefree teenager for over a season. Then, At her own wedding, she casually whips out a gun and murders Birdperson, revealing that everything about her was a lie. Talk about a backstab.
You know what this human eats.
Don't be gross, Tammy.
Bird.
Tammy, gross!
Tammy killed Birdperson, one of the most beloved characters. Look, Rick and Morty fans love Birdperson. He's stoic, wise, and genuinely one of Rick's only true friends, which makes Tammy's betrayal hit even harder. One second, Tammy is delivering a heartfelt speech, and the next, Tammy shoots Birdperson down, point blank. And what's worse, she didn't even hesitate. For someone as powerful and arrogant as Rick Sanchez, that moment was a gut punch. Tammy wasn't just an annoying villain, she was a symbol of one of Rick's biggest failures. It's one thing to be a villain, but it's another to fake an entire friendship just to get close to your target. On top of that, she used Birdperson's dead body, added cybernetic implants, and created a loyal lapdog/death machine, a Phoenix person.
Birdperson?
It is now Phoenix Person.
You're working for them? What did they do to you, BP?
It is now PP.
Armed with a cybernetic ace up her sleeve, she comes after Rick. Good thing Jerry was there. Tammy not only betrayed everyone, she killed one of the most respected carries in the series and mutilated his corpse. Fans have never forgiven her for it.
Earth's going ta-ta. You might want to do that thing where you find a new universe where you can suck yourself off.
You can't tell me what to do.
She's smug, annoying, and completely full of herself. Tammy isn't just evil, she's obnoxious about it. Even after she betrays everyone, she still acts like she's hot shit, even though she's literally just a government pawn. In Starborn Rictum of the Jerry, she gets into a dramatic standoff with Space Beth, acting like she's some galactic overlord.
Get down! Don't move! On the ground! On the ground!
Everybody, shut up! You're all saying different shit!
But Rick's crew wipes the floor with her. She thinks she's a mastermind, but in reality, she's just another government puppet with a superiority complex. She betrayed everyone, murdered a beloved character, and acted like she was the most important person in the universe, only to die like an absolute joke.
You made me go to a wedding. And you killed my best friend. I should have said that one first.
Honestly, she deserved it. But you know who did not deserve to get shot? That's right, Mr. Poopy Butthole. Rick and Morty fans are not your average cartoon enthusiasts. They don't just watch TV for fun. They watch it to have their entire belief system dismantled by a drunk scientist while a traumatized teenager has an existential crisis in the background. It's a beautiful mix of nihilism, dark humor, and occasionally a pickle with a jetpack. But amid all the chaos, there exists one character who has somehow captured the hearts of fans in a way that defies all logic. A character with an impossibly long name and an even larger ability to survive absurd tragedies.
Ooh-wee, I'm Mr. Poopy Butthole!
Yes, that's his real name. No, we're not changing it. The unintentional fan favorite. When Mr. Poopy Butthole first appeared in Rick and Morty, fans assumed he was just another throwaway joke, because let's be honest, the show throws out characters faster than Rick throws out Mortys that get too self-aware. The episode featured parasitic aliens that implanted false memories in the Smith family's heads, leading to the introduction of characters so ridiculous they had to be fake, like Sleepy Gary.
What are we doing?
Naturally, the logical conclusion was that Mr. Poopy Butthole was also fake. So when Beth pulled out a gun and shot him in the stomach, totally normal family behavior by the way, fans expected the usual Rick and Morty punchline. Maybe it'd explode into goo, or maybe Rick would just sigh and say, "Well, another one bites the dust." But instead, Mr. Poopy Butthole was real. Cue the awkward silence, the dramatic shift in music, and the entire Rick and Morty fanbase experiencing collective emotional whiplash. He is the one consistently good thing in Rick and Morty. If there's one thing Rick and Morty fans love, it's a character who can make them feel something, and then immediately regret feeling it. And that's exactly what Mr. Poopy Butthole does. He gets shot for no reason, he struggles through physical therapy, he finds love and starts a family. He loses his family, and despite all that, he keeps going. He's not a genius, he's not a nihilist, he's not a cosmic horror disguised as a cartoon character. He's just a polite little guy doing his best in a universe that doesn't make sense. And that's why we love him. At the end of the day, Mr. Poopy Butthole is the perfect blend of tragedy and comedy, wrapped up in a polite, high-pitched voice and in a tiny top hat. Unlike the next guy on our list, who is the opposite of what Mr. Poopy Butthole represents. The President of the United States in Rick and Morty, voiced by Keith David, is one of the show's most recurring side characters. At first, he seemed like a fun, over-the-top government figure who could match wits with Rick. But as the series went on, he became less of an entertaining rival and more of an insufferable pain in the ass.
What does this mean? This means nothing. Pull forward and park. Then say that, goddammit.
For a show packed with arrogant, egotistical, and over-the-top characters, the President somehow manages to be one of the most annoying. That's saying something.
Mr. President, I think the point of the Electoral College is...
To preserve slavery? That's right, Steve. I have the internet too. Now take your white ass to the kitchenette and bring me a Diet Coke.
He's just as arrogant as Rick, but way less cool. Rick Sanchez is allowed to be an egotistical maniac because, well, he's Rick Sanchez. He actually backs up his arrogance with god-tier intelligence, insane tech, and the ability to destroy entire civilizations for fun. The President, on the other hand, has none of that. He acts like he's the smartest guy in the room, but in reality, he's just a power-hungry politician who constantly gets outplayed by Rick. Like how in the Rick and Morty date, instead of handling actual global crises, the President gets into a full-on petty feud with Rick over selfies and territorial pissing contests. He spends the whole episode trying to prove he's better than Rick, only to get humiliated multiple times. In the end, he loses everything: his pride, his dignity, and his personal war with Rick. At least Rick's ego is entertaining. The President's, it's just exhausting.
There's still some rubble over there.
I don't think you've ever understood what Secretary of the Interior means.
The President is power-hungry and petty as hell. He would rather take over the country's population by force than do anything good for the people, as he did in the Air Force Wong episode, where he used a dormant hive mind left by Unity to take over the minds of his people.
Give it to me. Give me that hive.
He's basically a little kid in a suit, throwing a tantrum every time something doesn't go his way. He's too stupid to see that he'll never beat Rick. You'd think, after losing to Rick multiple times, the President would just give up and focus on running the country. Nope. Instead, he keeps trying to go toe-to-toe with Rick, even though it never works out for him. The President had gone from a fun, egotistical government figure to just a whiny, insecure man-child who keeps picking fights he can't win. Unlike Morty C137, who gets a win here and there. If you're a Rick and Morty fan, chances are you spent at least one existential crisis wondering, is Morty actually the protagonist of this show? At first glance, the answer is obviously no. The show's title literally puts Rick's names first.
What the fuck? Rick!
He's the genius, the nihilist, the mad scientist with an I don't give a fuck attitude. Meanwhile, Morty, he's the nervous, stuttering sidekick who can't even ask out Jessica without sweating through his shirt. But here's the thing. Rick and Morty isn't just about Rick. It's about Morty C137, the one Morty who is different from all the other Mortys. The one Morty who actually grows, suffers, and somehow holds this entire insane universe together.
Oh my god! I thought you went to a concert!
We forgot the tickets! Why in the kitchen?
I do it everywhere! Stop shaming me!
He's the show's biggest underdog, and that's why he works. From the very first episode, we know exactly who Morty is. Awkward, nervous, and completely unprepared for the nightmare that is interdimensional travel. He's practically Rick's emotional punching bag, dragged through alien landscapes, alternate realities, and ethical dilemmas so horrific they'd make a philosophy major drop out of college. And yet we root for him, because unlike Rick, who's a borderline sociopath, with godlike intelligence, Morty is just a normal kid, trying to survive a life he never signed up for.
I'm gonna need you to take these seeds into the bathroom, and I'm gonna need you to put them way up inside your butthole, Morty.
My butt?
Put them way up inside there, as far as they can fit.
Oh, jeez, Rick.
Take Me Seeks and Destroy as an episode, for example. Morty insists on going on his own adventure, proving that he doesn't need Rick. He just wants a classic hero's journey, something fun, safe, and a little inspiring. Instead, he gets attempted sexual assault by a Jellybean king and has to be saved by Rick. That's Rick and Morty in a nutshell. Morty tries, the universe laughs, and we love him for it.
I masturbated to an extra curvy piece of driftwood the other day!
He's slowly becoming Rick, and that's terrifying. Here's what makes Morty C137 different from the other Mortys in the multiverse. He changes. At the start of the series, Morty is just an innocent kid who actually believes in things, like love, adventure, and the idea that some things in life still matter. But by the time we hit episodes like Look Who's Purging Now, Morty has snapped. He goes from a nervous wreck to a straight-up killer, mowing down an entire enemy army of rich aristocrats with a machine gun. Rick even points out saying, "Yikes, Morty, that was dark. Are you okay?" But Morty doesn't care. And that's scary. At this point, he's basically a mini Rick, except without the intelligence or the alcohol tolerance. Or at least yet. And that's why we love Morty. He's not just Rick's dumb sidekick, he's the only character who actually changes. Not necessarily for the better.
Well then get your shit together! Get it all together and put it in a backpack! All your shit, so it's together!
Evil Morty proves that Morty C137 is special. Now if Morty C137 was just another Morty, none of this would matter. The Council of Ricks treats Mortys like cannon fodder, interchangeable, disposable, and only useful as emotional shields for their Ricks. But Morty C137, he's different. Even Evil Morty, the single most dangerous Morty in the multiverse, acknowledges that our Morty is special. In the Ricklantis mix-up, he talks about Mortys like they're all just blindly following their Ricks, never realizing that they could be free. But our Morty, he's already questioning Rick. He's already standing up to him.
We're not defined by our relationships to Rick! Our destiny is our own!
By the Solarix episode, he even realizes that he doesn't need Rick at all. That's huge. That's like a kid realizing that their emotionally distant dad actually isn't that impressive. Morty was always supposed to follow Rick, but now he's ready to leave. Fans love him for that. He's the show's heart, even when it gets ripped out. At the end of the day, Rick and Morty is a comedy wrapped in tragedy, and Morty is the only character who still feels that tragedy. Rick doesn't care. Summer pretends she doesn't care. Beth and Jerry, they're too busy being toxic to care. But Morty feels every loss, every failure, and every moment where things could have been different. That's why we love him, because even though he's slowly turning into Rick, even though he's becoming colder and more violent and less caring, he still tries to hold on to whatever humanity he has left. And in a show where nothing matters, that actually means everything.
Rick, I can handle it if you go, but you break Mom's heart, and I won't forgive you for that.
Morty C137 is the only Morty who actually matters. Not because he's smarter or stronger, but because he's the only one trying to be more than just a sidekick. He's an underdog. He's a hero in a universe that doesn't allow heroes. And at the end of the day, he's proof that even a world where nothing matters, some things still do. Unlike Jerry, who can't wait to be more meaningless every day. He's pathetic, spineless, insecure, and somehow still manages to make everything worse.
It's kind of your fault that we're in this situation at all.
I know, but come on. Adventures of Jerry and Morty.
Okay.
A walking, talking embodiment of failure and secondhand embarrassment. Jerry is a spineless, pathetic excuse for a man. He's the type of guy who loses an argument to a Roomba and still thinks he won. Right from the start, Jerry establishes himself as a total pushover, getting walked all over by Beth, ignored by his kids, and completely overshadowed by Rick. Instead of doing something about it, he whines and sulks like a child.
No.
He constantly ruins everything for everyone. If something is going well in Rick and Morty, just wait. Jerry will find a way to screw it up. Like when Jerry nearly destroys reality in Me Seeks and Destroy, because he's too stubborn to improve his golf game.
At this point, my golf swing is more your problem than mine.
I can't take it anymore! I just want to die! We all want to die!
The Me Seeks literally start killing each other in frustration because Jerry is that incompetent. Or when Jerry gets dumped in a daycare specifically for Jerry's, which tells you everything you need to know about him, instead of learning anything, he just bumbles around uselessly until Rick and Morty come back for him.
Hey.
Jerry isn't just useless, he's dangerously useless. He's pathetic, but somehow still arrogant. Jerry thinks he's the nice guy who deserves respect, when in reality he's a selfish, whiny man-child. Remember how Jerry acted when Rick invited him to go on an adventure with him? He tries to get Rick killed out of pure jealousy. He fails spectacularly and ends up crying in a space bathroom while Rick literally has to babysit him.
I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I won't do it again.
Nobody ever does.
Or how Jerry thinks he's leading a resistance against giant sperm monsters, only to find out he's been useless the entire time. Jerry is too dumb to be a villain and too weak to be a hero, yet he still acts like he's worth listening to.
Gentlemen, a moment of your time.
See that? I'm peeing all over your special guns.
He's also a terrible husband and father. Jerry is constantly trying to prove he's a good husband and dad, but the second things get tough, he bails.
How about this?
Morty, what are you doing?
Being scared!
Like when Jerry and Beth go on a Titanic-themed vacation, and instead of bonding with his wife, he nearly gets assaulted by an obsessed crew member. Beth has to save him, and he still acts like it's not his fault. Jerry wants a loving family. He just doesn't want to put in any effort to actually earn one. If the universe had a reset button for useless people, Jerry would be the first one erased. Unlike Rick, who could do the only reasonable thing and save the day. Rick Sanchez is the kind of character that shouldn't work. He's cynical, alcoholic, emotionally detached as a mad scientist with a superiority complex so massive it has its own gravitational field.
Hey, Morty, you want connection? Go be part of some stupid club like all those dumb Ricks. You know, maybe I don't connect because I'm the rickest Rick there is.
He's reckless, self-destructive, and responsible for more collateral damage than an Avengers fight scene. And yet fans still love him. Not just because he's funny, not just because he's a genius, but because Rick C137 is more than just a drunken nihilist. He's the most complex character in the entire series.
What's going on? It's hard to tell. He may have manifested some sort of butt.
He can do that?
He is the smartest man in the universe.
He's the smartest man in the multiverse. That's his curse. Let's start with the obvious. Rick C137 is ridiculously intelligent. He's not just a genius, he's a god-tier, reality-bending super scientist. The man can turn himself into a pickle and still outthink an entire underground Russian syndicate, erase people's memories at will, mostly to cover up his own mistakes, destroy the entire citadel of Ricks with a single, perfectly executed scheme, literally create an entire miniature universe inside a car battery for unlimited energy. He's unstoppable. There's nothing he can't do.
Relative size! Jerry, hand me a scalpel and a bundle of dynamite! Morty, can you get to the left nipple?
And yet, he's miserable. Rick has solved everything, and it hasn't made him happy. He's so smart that nothing surprises him anymore, and that's his real tragedy. Because at the end of the day, all of that intelligence hasn't made Rick better, it's just made him more aware of how pointless everything is. He finds no wonder in anything anymore.
Enjoy using it all by yourself while you sit there and think about how nobody wants to be around you and how you ruined it for yourself because you're a huge piece of shit.
His backstory is way darker than we ever expected. For years, Rick and Morty teased a tragic past for Rick C137. Fans assumed it was all just one of Rick's many lies. And then came Rick Mariah Jack, and we finally got the truth. His wife and daughter were murdered by another Rick. He spent years hunting down the Ricks responsible. He refused to join the Citadel because he didn't want to be like them. Suddenly, everything made sense. Rick C137 isn't just a random mad scientist. He's a man who lost everything and never recovered.
I'll be okay. Bye, Morty.
He replaced his dead daughter with a version of her from another universe. He drowned his guilt in booze, chaos, and meaningless adventures. He tells Morty that nothing matters, not because he believes it, but because it's the only way he can live with himself. And fans felt that. This isn't just funny nihilism. It's a man running from his past, pretending he's fine, and failing miserably.
And this time he's out to end more than worlds. We have reason to believe his stronghold is located on
my balls.
He does care. He just won't admit it. Rick acts like he doesn't care about anyone. But the best moments in the show are the ones where we see the cracks in his armor. When he tears through dimensions to save Morty, when he freaks out and desperately tries to save Morty's collapsing body, Rick C137 cares more than he wants to, and that makes him one of the most compelling characters in modern animation.
Because this is a sane place where women rule.
Yeah, you know what I have to say about that?
I cannot believe my ears.
Fans don't love Rick C137 because he's smart, or because he's funny, or even because he's a badass scientist who can take down an entire galactic federation single-handedly. They love him because he's broken. He's a man who lost everything, pretends he doesn't care, and spends every waking second trying to outrun his own emotions. And that, more than any portal gun, mind-blowing invention, or sarcastic one-liner, is what makes him the most interesting character in the show. There you have it, folks. These were the most loved and hated characters in Rick and Morty. If you want to discover times when Rick was a hero in Rick and Morty, check out this video.